Hey guys, KingWatcher6 here and we're back with another video. In this video I'll be doing a drawing of Jackie Tristan from Bleach via thumbnail 15 from the last thumbnail video. In this video I'll discuss my ranking of the Fullbringers in terms of fighting abilities and my overall thoughts on the Fullbringers stories. As I discussed in the Soifun Speedpaint, the Fullbringer arc is my favorite arc in the series prior to Bleach 1000 Year Blood War. Since Jackie used to be a Fullbringer herself, I was thinking of discussing their fighting abilities and ranking them accordingly. Firstly, the top two guys are obviously Kugo Ginjo and Shukuro Tsukishima. Kugo is the only one of the Fullbringers who also has Soul Reaper powers. Before I continue, I'm not discussing Ichigo because he barely had his fully awakened Fullbringer powers. If I included him, he'd obviously be number one by a long shot, especially including the new stuff we learned in 1000 Year Blood War. Shukuro Tsukishima is second because Kugo taught him how to fight, and from what went on in the Fullbringer arc, none of the Fullbringers outside of Ginjo could actually take him on in a one-on-one fight. With that established, let's go over the other Fullbringers. That leaves Giriko Kutsugawa, Riruka Dokugamine, Jackie Tristan, Yukio, and Yasutoru Sato aka Chad. Firstly, I'll compare them prior to attaining Ichigo's Fullbringers, and then compare them after. Some of their abilities aren't fully explored at this point, like Yukio and Giriko's. In terms of what is shown in the anime, I would say that between the two, Yukio has a much better chance of being able to restrain or take out a target and invaders must die. I don't know the parameters around Giriko's time tells no lies, so I don't know what someone could do to counteract it or the limitations behind what it can do to someone specifically. As we saw during Ichigo's training, the plushies got stronger after a certain time limit set by Giriko. If their agreement bond conditions aren't met, anyone and anything binded to the contract of Giriko's ability will perish in time. Yukio, however, can trap someone in his game, and from there he has full control over what's going on within said game. I'm assuming if someone were powerful enough to destroy dimensions, for example, like Yami's Dimensional Slash in Black Clover, they could break out of his ability and he'd then be defenseless. As for Riruka, her dollhouse ability isn't that powerful when it comes to combat. As we learned from Shukuro, destroying the container in which Riruka is using her ability shuts it down. Now the real threat with her is the love gun that Shukuro made. With it, her ability has a long range application and the fact that she can launch things that she loves at her target. She can also shoot her heart-shaped stickers and insert her target into an object that she loves. The projectile doesn't seem to move that fast, and in all honesty, Rukia should have had no trouble in avoiding it, but since she didn't know what it was, she let her guard down. Against anyone who knows her abilities, that wouldn't happen. Obviously, all the Fullbringers can use Bringer Light and enhance their physical abilities by drawing out the souls of other objects. With that in mind, I don't see Riruka doing too much damage. Finally, we have Jackie. The dirtier she gets, the stronger she gets. From what I can tell, outside of Kugo and Shukuro, she has the best hand-to-hand combat abilities out of the bunch, and yes, I'm including Chad in this conversation. With that in mind, her ability depends on the environment that she's in. If she can't get dirty, then she has no limit. And then we have Chad. He definitely has the most screen time out of the bunch. His main strength is his strong body and his strong arms. He does have a powerful blast that he can shoot out of his right arm, and he has La Muerte. In terms of defense, that's his right arm specialty with the Brazo, Derecho, Del Gigante. His weakness is his speed, and from what I can tell, he doesn't develop his Fullbringer abilities like Bringer-like to the same degree as the others, or Ichigo for that matter. Given his performance against Shukuro with Orihime's help, I just can't put him on their level. La Muerte seems to be his most powerful move, and I don't know how it stacks against the others. Now on to ranking them all. I was going to go over their abilities after gaining Ichigo's powers, but that would extend this section far more than what it needs to be. As I already established, Kugo is first, Shukuro is second. As for third place, if I had to give to someone, I'm going with Chad. Unlike Jackie, his powers don't require any outside conditions like becoming dirty, and he and Jackie are the two best close-range combatants of the bunch. Also, Chad does have a long-range attack that he can use. Fourth would be Yukio. Actually, no, fourth would be Jackie, and then after that would be Yukio, because if he catches his opponent off guard, he can trap them with invaders must die, and at that point, the enemy is at his mercy. Fifth would be Jackie, because of her close-range combat abilities, and I'd put Riruka last. Her abilities are impressive, but her core fighting abilities don't seem to be up there with the rest of them. I did not expect to talk as much as I did in the last section, so hopefully this last section will be more brief. I decided to do 2 sections rather than the usual 3 outside of the intro and outro because I talked a lot in the first section. So, let's get to it. So I've talked about the Fullbringer arc and the Soifun Speedpaint, so I'll focus more on the stories of the Fullbringers themselves. I will be talking about the new ones introduced, meaning I will not focus on Chad or Ichigo as the main characters of Bleach, and they're established with the majority of the episodes prior. Riruka is interesting. She used Dollhouse to kidnap her crush. Because of this, I feel absolutely nothing for her, and don't feel bad for her whatsoever due to the consequences she suffers as a result of this. She used her powers for selfish purposes without considering the feelings of those around her. Had she asked permission beforehand, then it'd be the faults of those that she enslaved. She herself admits that she was wrong for this, so I respect her for that. Within this arc, she gives off this nonchalant kind of attitude in which she pretends not to care about anyone but herself, but she warms up to those that she gets enough time to know. The other Fullbringers, Orihime, and even Ichigo. I mean, she saved Ichigo from getting stabbed in the back by Shukuro. She clearly enjoyed having a friend in Orihime. Her actions showcased that she wasn't as power-driven as the others, and she wasn't into the idea of taking over the world and proving herself with her power. Definitely a complex character. Jackie. I'll speak on her second because this speed paint is of her. Her backstory is reminiscent of Ichigo in a sense when you think about it. She was upset that she wasn't able to protect her family with her power. Ichigo's mother was killed by Grand Fisher, and he didn't have the power to do anything. Also, a Hollow attacked Kari and Yuzu in the first episode, and without Rukia, Ichigo could have suffered a similar fate to Jackie. Because of the death of her family, Jackie's ideals changed. She doesn't believe in the idea of heroes and the types of people like Ichigo who charge in and strive to protect everything. I guess in a way she's more grounded. She understands that even with power you can't protect everything. Through her fight with Uranji, her hope returned to her. She is probably my second favorite Fullbringer in terms of his story. Next, I'll talk about Yukio. He comes off as this rich, spoiled brat who doesn't have a care for the world, but when you learn about the cause of this, it makes a lot of sense. His parents neglected him. As a result, there was no one to raise him to be good, and no one to tell him not to give in to his selfish desires and temptations. He lashed out and made them go bankrupt, and they committed suicide. I see Yukio's story as an exaggerated telling of the consequences of not giving a child the attention they need. A similar thing could have happened to Naruto had Haruka not come along. Gaara lashed out against the world as a result of a lack of attention as well. Giriko, Shukuro, and Kugo are a little bit of a mystery in comparison to the rest. I'll start with Giriko. From Riruka's explanation, Giriko thought very highly of his newfound powers, and from what we saw on the show, I thought that Giriko tried to bring his wife back to life with his newfound powers. I'm not sure if that's the case, but given that time is the main feature of his abilities, it would make sense. When it comes to the Fullbringers, all their powers perfectly tie in to their upbringings. As for Shukuro, we don't see anything prior to Kugo finding him and essentially raising him. He learned how to use his powers and fight because of him, and because of how much he means, Shukuro broke internally when Kugo died. If I were to describe it, Shukuro was like an empty vase, and Kugo filled it with water. After Kugo died, that water immediately poured out and the vase started cracking. I believe that representation is what makes him so great. The fact that I can envision that within Shukuro's essence speaks volumes to his character. And lastly, we have Kugo, the ringleader of the Fullbringers. We know that when he became a Soul Reaper, he at some point sold the powers of other Soul Reapers to make himself more powerful. He also brought all the Fullbringers together. He learned the truth about the combat pass, and he tells Ichigo. One thing that sticks out to me is during his last moments, he questions what could have been had Ichigo been the first substitute Soul Reaper. That brings everything into perspective. Maybe he turned into a power-hungry dude because he wanted to get back at the Soul Society for choosing to use him as some sort of tool. Ichigo, on the other hand, is grateful that he has the power to protect those around him, so despite hearing all of it, Ichigo never hesitated. Also, Jushiro hinted to Ichigo that there was more to the combat pass than he said. I think despite not knowing much about his past, he has that mystery to him. Kugo, to be clear. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, check out my Twitter and Discord, both are in the description. If you want to know what I'm currently doing or thinking about, those two places are the best places to go. I will see you guys next time.